Good to see you.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Hi everybody, it's Az here from Heel vs Babyface, and this is my ongoing review of WildStar. As always, I will be giving my open and honest opinion about the title, going through everything that's good about it, bad about it, and potentially ugly about it too. One of the massive things that WildStar has going for it is it's not held down by any baggage. It comes into the MMO marketplace brand spanking new. They're made up of two different factions, the Exiles and the Dominion. The Dominion are the bad guys, and they're made up of the Cassian, who are the human aspect for them, the Draken, who are like the dragony / devil type people, the Chewer, who could only be described as psychotic bunny rabbits, and then the Makari, who are just robot-based entities. The Exiles, who are the good guys in this situation, are made up of the human race, the Orin race, who are a lot more cuter, less psychotic bunny people. We then have the Granok, who are massive amalgamations of rock, both male and female. And then we have the Mordesh, who quite strangely for the Exiles appear to be some sort of balance between undead and also android-esque people too. You then have 6 different classes from which to choose. The Warrior, which is the two-handed melee class. You have the Engineer, which is a ranged big artillery class. The Esper, who's a spellcaster, Medic, which is pretty self-explanatory, the Stalker one, which acts as the rogue-based class for this game, and then we have the Spellslinger, which is the ranged two-handed pistol guys. And you then got one of 4 pathways from which to choose: the Soldier, the Settler, the Scientist, or the Explorer. And what these do is they just add another facet to your gaming experience. If you choose to be the Soldier, then you'll open up some more combat-based missions for you to do around the maps. If you choose Settler, then you'll be allowed to build and repair little things all around the zones that can go and buff other people too. The Scientist is all about finding out about the botany and also the wildlife of different areas, scanning them and seeing what they can learn. And then finally the Explorer is where you simply go out and about and try and discover every single facet on the map that it asks you to do. Combat is fast and frenetic, just how I like it, and on top of that, it's highly customizable. You have multiple abilities from which to choose from that are unlocked as you start to progress with your leveling, and you can chop and change them at a moment's notice on the fly. Doesn't cost you anything to do, and you can go and tailor very specific abilities for very specific fights. On top of this, every class also can cast on the move or has an instant ability which they can get out straight away. You're not rooted to the spot all the time, which is pretty dull in an action-based combat system. Sure, there are spells and abilities that you will have to stand and cast, but they're more often than not, at least, a little bit special. And every single ability that you do, either casting out to somebody else or coming in from an enemy, is telegraphed by a pattern on the floor. It might be a spread AoE, it might be a single target line which hits multiple enemies. This allows you not only to dodge out of the way to see what's incoming, but it allows the opposition to also see what's coming in, and this can be very useful in PvP, which I'll get to a little bit later on. WildStar has gone for a very cartoony look to the game, and I personally think that's very savvy indeed. One of the reasons why World of Warcraft has endured for so long is it has a very distinctive cartoony style. When you create an MMORPG and you try to make it look a little bit too realistic, it tends to age really badly. But when you have something as stylized as this, you can make slight little tweaks to textures and shadings and little things like that as the years go by, and the game still feels relevant and it still feels as if it has its very niche feel to it too. But it doesn't mean that cartoony means basic. The environments are quite vast and diverse. The zones tend to change very quickly indeed, and there's just all manner of crazy things all over the place, whether it be the creatures that are around the place or the trees and the rock formations and the villages and all that kind of jazz that goes alongside it. I think it looks absolutely sexy as chuff. Because the combat system is so satisfying, leveling never feels like a chore. There are multiple times I've been in a zone trying to complete quests without actually realising it. I've just been there shooting stuff, blasting stuff, exploding stuff, jumping over stuff, and I've just totally forgotten what I was really there to do. It felt really organic and I was completing it as I was going along. But the main thing that was going around my brain was the amount of fun that I was actually having while I was doing it. And then suddenly, bingo. Oh, you've just completed that part of your quest. Really? Alright, okay, thank you very much indeed. That's something which is really, really difficult to get in a video game today. A lot of the levelling up processes tend to be simply a means to an end and very grindy and potentially boring. But due to the action-based nature of the combat, the double jump system, which allows you to also perform some sort of platform-esque type of tasks too, it feels really cool and really interesting. On top of that, there always seems to be action-based events going on in the zones too. Let's say, for example, you enter one and you're immediately attacked by a wolf. You turn, you defend yourself, and you kill the wolf. Suddenly, you get a flash on your screen and it says, right, you now have 3 minutes with which to kill as many wolves as possible. You kill 10 and you will qualify for the bronze reward. You kill 17 and you will qualify for the silver reward. You kill 25 and you will qualify for the gold reward. So you go around and you try and kill as many as possible within the time frame. But it's not always numbers based. Sometimes it's actually percentage based. And this is a great way to stop people from just running up to your target, tagging it, and then running off to try and grab another one while gaining all the reward for doing so. No, they could hit it once, run off to another, they would get a tiny percentage towards the completion of their quest. You tag it, you get 2%, but if you stay there and you kill the beast, you get 9, 10, 12%. You get a whole lot more. It stops griefers from just coming along and being a prick. If you complete one of these special events, then you'll get yourself a random reward, but you can select the reward that you would prefer. When you qualify for bronze, you'll have ×2 chance of actually getting it. If you get the silver reward, that will become ×4 chance of getting the item you want, and if you manage to get the gold reward, it will be a staggering ×10 chance of getting the random. Of course, it is random, so you won't necessarily be guaranteed the item that you want, but the items that you can get are not just typical throwaways. Yes, they can be mats, yes, they can be food, they can also be armor, they can also be decor for your player housing, they can be some really cool things. I'm sorry, did I say player housing? What I meant to say was player housing. Yes, at level 14, this will become available to you. You get zapped up into the great above and beyond when you go to the capital city, and you have a vast plot of land with which to create. You're greeted by a bulletin board. Do pay note of it, because this bulletin board will give you access, which you can utilise once a day, to some buffs, either experience buffs for a group, or questing and levelling experience, or even PvP as well. Now, because the maximum level in the game is 50, and you get this at level 14, please don't expect to have access to everything straight away. You'll no doubt just have a modest few things with which to play with from the start, but you get decor items through all manner of stuff in the game, through leveling, through questing, through active events, through killing mobs, through PvP. You can find all manner of these items, right click them in your inventory to send them to your crate. Your crate stores them all, and when you're in your player housing, you can access this crate and pop it wherever you want. These items can be vast and not just necessarily functional things like beds and sofas and tables and chairs. They can be trees, they can be mazes, they can be holographic images, they can be golden rocket ships, they can be hedges, they can be fences, they can be all manner of stuff with what you can do, and you can upgrade these items, switch them, put them, take them away. It's highly, highly customizable and seems like a great distraction if you want a break from questing, leveling, endgame, PvP, you name it. The potential here is absolutely vast. You can also open it up to friends only or to the public. Whoever you want to see it, you can show it to them. And speaking of customization, let's move on to the crafting system, which I personally think is an absolute doozy. It opens up around about level 8 or 9. You get cooking as a given, but you can choose 2 further forms of crafting. I personally went for weaponsmith and also for mining. I wanted weaponsmith because I want to create some massive guns. And I promise you, I'm not trying to overcompensate. What you do is then you open up the schematic at a workbench and you can start to craft the item that you want. Sometimes some stats are an absolute given, but the secondary stat you can always toy with, and you can put exactly what you want. You want some brutality, put some brutality on it. You want some finesse, you put some finesse on it. You prefer grit to gain yourself extra HP, put grit on it. And you can take a little bit of a risk and reward here. You manage to fill up the battery bar exactly, you'll have a 100% completion chance. You go over it slightly, you might have a few percent here or there. It might be 1% chance of failing, 6% chance. But the more that you increase the overclocking of that battery, the more percentage you will have to fail your craft. It's a little bit of a risk and reward, and I do like that awfully. I managed to craft something with a little bit of extra stats that had a 25% chance of failure. So thankfully for me, the 75% came through. But if I had failed, I would have lost the item and I would have lost the mats to go along with it as well. Now, the crafted items aren't simply there to distract you. When you do craft one, the likelihood is you will want to equip it. It's going to be useful pretty much straight away. And then you have the tech tree. You get yourself work orders, you craft certain items, you will open up further trees. Opening up and completing these orders, though, might actually gain you some points, which you can use on the tech talent tree, which can improve ratios when you're crafting stuff or increase the experience that you get from failing items and then constantly overclock the battery and fail by just getting yourself further and further in experience. It's a very novel and interesting way with which to do so. Me personally, I like to try and succeed to use the item, and it's really, really in depth. You can find schematics simply by completing the work orders or by defeating mobs and getting quest rewards or event rewards, etc, etc. Again, highly, highly customizable, fun to do, doesn't feel like a chore, and me likey long time. Then we have the PvP system, 3 letters that strike fear into my heart. Not because I'm a wuss, I love player versus player combat, but because I've been playing World of Warcraft for on and off now 7 years. And I've seen PvP go from something really cool, fun and interesting into the absolute pile of dog shite that it is today. Thankfully for me though, WildStar PvP was actually really good fun. There seems to be some unwritten law that PvP can't be fun unless you blow up the opposition in 2 seconds without them having the opportunity to turn and fight. Well, thankfully, this is a philosophy that the WildStar devs have thrown away. They want you to engage in combat, and they want the combat to feel as if it's a fight. So let's say you had about 12,500 HP in the battleground, which does scale everybody up to the same level. You could do just your regular standard attack and deal 400 to 600 damage, dependent on whether or not you get a crit. You use a much bigger attack and you might be able to hit them for 1k, 1.5k, maybe a little bit more here and there. But that's not numbers to blow somebody up. They're going to have plenty of opportunity with which to retort. As well, if a rogue comes up stealth and does its big opener on you, you still have plenty of opportunity to turn and fight. I think the combat system here was really engaging. There were multiple times where you're bouncing around, dodging the abilities that you can see coming in because they are broadcast whenever they do something. Is it an AoE? Is it a focal point? You can stun the opposition and get them rooted to the spot. When you are stunned though, you do have the opportunity to break out by holding a specific key. It doesn't just always put it in the mode of the attacker is going to win. You can be defensive and try and get away. Healers don't seem too OP either. Sure, they absolutely help, giving you little bits of health here and there, but are they going to sway the course of a battle? Well, if the DPS turn on you, not so much. And when we got into massive groups and started fighting, it was just a frag fest of fun. I was giggling and laughing like a little schoolgirl, and I didn't care whether or not I died because I was simply enjoying the aspect. Sure, I could have been on my own and 3 or 4 people came up to me and I would be bye-bye in absolutely no time. But to me, that's how it should be. But the one-on-one combat elements which I managed to do, whether or not I won or was defeated, I always felt as if I had a chance. I always felt as if there was something there that I could do, whether or not it be at the right moment to turn and flee, or whether or not it be at the right moment to maybe plant that stun, which is on a substantial cooldown, to then try and finish off the opposition. Can I just say, devs for WildStar, thank you for making a PvP system pretty good fun. I've only had access to 2 different battlegrounds so far, and they have been pretty diverse. The first one was a kind of capture the flag. You could get some figureheads spawn around the map, or you could simply run to the opposition's base and grab one from there. You then had to return it back to yours. You get 5, you win the match. But you put one at your side and the opposition come to your base and grab it, you'll actually lose one, because they have now one of your masks. And then we then had another BG, which was a defense-based system. One team would be on the attack, one team would be on the defense. You had to hold out in a certain area and prevent the other opposition team from taking it. If you did, they would just keep coming until they had. If you lost it, you'd fall back to position 2, eventually position 3, and if the opposition took that final position, then they won. You would also switch over, so you would become the attacker and they would become the defenders. Although I've only had limited experience with the PvP system so far, it has filled my heart with a little bit of joy that PvP in an MMO can be fun and interesting, and not some visceral fragfest which just blows everybody up immediately, which always caters for overpoweredness on certain classes. Just as you would expect with any brand new MMORPG, it hasn't all been plain sailing, but at least they haven't been stupid enough like the Elder Scrolls Online developers to come out with some ridiculous statements saying that the client is absolutely patched full and there'll be no bugs and everything will be hunky-dory and smooth. Of course, the Elder Scrolls Online released as one of the buggiest pieces of messes we've ever seen in an MMORPG. No, there have been some issues, but I'm not going to dress them up and turn them into something that they are not. The main issue seems to be that they simply didn't cater for the vast number of people that wanted to play the game. They didn't put enough servers up, and because of that, there have been vast queues with which to get on. They have added some more, but I'm not convinced it's enough. They need to add a lot more to the game. I myself was locked in a queue of over 1,100 people, and on early access, when you're desperate to play the game because it is fun and really cool, that doesn't endear you too much. People are a lot more fickle than myself, and if they see a queue of this size, they will simply leave and they may not come back for a substantial period. They need to address this really, really quickly. Some servers have fallen down, but they have been repaired and put up in reasonably good time. On top of that, there have been multiple patches applied to the game already in early access, which shows that the developers are on top of things and are quick to eradicate bugs whenever they appear. I have 2 characters in WildStar so far. One of them is level 16 and one of them is level 11. And in all that time, I've experienced 1 bug. Just one simple solitary bug, and that was a quest that I was doing when I was level 10. A certain item was meant to appear at a location on the map. It didn't. It was late at night, I turned the game off, I went to bed. When I logged back on the next day, lo and behold, the item was there and the quest had been fixed. I can't say any more than that. I know some other people have had some logging in experiences, but I haven't had that problem myself, and that was quickly eradicated as well. So far for a launch, it's been pretty darn decent. You're always going to get naysayers turning things into something they're not. I'm not even going to pretend to. It's been as smooth as I've possibly seen on an MMO launch, and kudos for that. Today, the servers have been really good, really easy to get on. I know it's a Monday, I know a lot of people will be at work, but it will be interesting to see how they cope when people do get back from their jobs and are really keen and eager to jump onto WildStar. That is going to be the big test, because today, of course, is the official launch. There is so much more to the game as well that I simply haven't had the time to go into in this preliminary video for the ongoing review. I'm looking forward to dealing with war plots where you create a garrison with friends and then go to war with other players, putting all manner of booby traps and things in your base when they come in to raid it. And there's other aspects. There's the end game, there's the dungeoning, there's the raiding. All of these are to come in future videos, and I am so excited. If I was to grade WildStar and what I'd seen so far, it easily qualifies for a 9 or a 9.5. It's been ridiculously good fun. I found it very fast paced, but at the same time pretty balanced, but awesome, awesome, awesome fun. And I can't stress that F word enough. If you're looking for something to do, if you're looking for something new to play, then WildStar is absolutely worthy of a look. Whether or not you stay for the long haul or just experience it for a short amount of time, I almost guarantee you will get a lot out of it. I'm looking forward to playing a lot more of this. I'm looking forward to leveling up my character to experience what else the game has to offer. I would thoroughly advise you do too. So I hope you enjoyed this ongoing review. Please do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook and twitch.tv/Heal vs Babyface for live streaming. And I shall be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care, everybody. Bye-bye.